Well, we've arrived at the last step of the 7-step process, and this is what Scott Kelby calls his finishing moves. And that has to deal with vibrance, sharpening, and vignetting. So let's talk about vibrance first. There are two sliders here that deal with the saturation of colors. And the one labeled saturation you never ever want to touch. What it does is it saturates all colors in the image equally, which usually turns out to be pretty cartoonish. If we pull that over to the right, you see it looks ridiculous pretty fast. What vibrance does is it's like a smart saturation. It actually looks at the photo and the colors in the photos, and it only enhances the colors, that might need a little punch to them. The other thing that it does, if there's people in your photos, it protects skin tones. So it doesn't make them look sunburned or something like that. So usually a little vibrance goes a long way. I kind of like move it over. Well, that's way too much. So right about there gives it a little punch. So I've got a 31. So again, like everything else, it's salt and pepper to taste. So let's move on to the sharpening, which is under the details panel. Now, I've already done my targeted sharpening here. And for this photo, I probably wouldn't do any more sharpening, but let's go over the how the sharpening works. The amount, of course, is how much sharpening you're going to do. The radius is the sharpening away from the pixel, and it's set at a default at 1.0, and I always leave it there. And detail has to do with, if you over sharpen, you can get, especially like in landscapes, you can get halos around your elements in the photo, and this detail protects from getting those halos, and I always leave it at 25. Now masking we'll talk about in a second. So what you would do, you would push this up to sharpen the entire photo. But I really don't want my background and some other things sharpened. So, like I said, I did the masking before using the adjustment brush and just sharpened in this area. But let me show you this tool right here. This is sort of an automated masking. If you hold the Alt key down on a PC or Option on a Mac, and click on the button, the whole thing turns white, and that means the whole photo will get the sharpening. As you move it to the right, the items that are black will not be sharpened, only the items that are white. So, let's see right there where my background disappears. If I wanted to add a little sharpening to the bird, to the outline, to the branch a little bit, I could move this up without affecting that background. Remember, we took the noise out of the background. Over sharpening it would bring that noise back. So I could move my sharpening up. The way really to check on the sharpening is go up here and zoom into your photo, into 1:1, and look at it. You can see we're starting to get some noise back in there, so I'm going to drop that down some more. Okay. So you can go in and do an overall sharpening to your photo, and using the masking, you can limit what part of the photos is going to get sharpened. This is especially helpful if you've got people in the photo, and you might need some sharpening like their eyes or their hair, but you don't want their skin being sharpened. By sliding this masking panel, this masking slider, you can avoid over sharpening skin. The last thing, which is the vignetting, and it's under the effects. Almost all my photos get a vignette. And if you slide it to the left, you get a dark vignette, and if you slide it to the right, you get this light vignette, which I never use. So I want to darken the edges, but I want it to be subtle. So I go over, and I usually 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range. And so if we look at it, it's just a subtle effect that draws the viewer's eye right towards your main subject. Okay, that's it. That finishes off the photo. Let's look at what we started out with before. This is the photo, raw photo, straight out of the camera. This is our finished photo. Let's put these photos side by side so we can see. If you hit the tab key, that'll make them full size. So over here on the left is what we started out with, and here is our finished product. I think you'll agree, quite a bit of difference. That's it. That's the whole 7 steps in developing a photo.